Let's take a breath and let it out. Now let's take a moment to appreciate the fact that we are all connected. Look around. Look around. Everyone around you is breathing the same air. We're all taking in the same information. If you're watching this later online, you're connected to us in time as well. But nowhere are we all more connected than in our global economy, our money. The word one is literally right there in the middle of the word money. The historian Noah Yuval Harari has said that money is perhaps the greatest invention in human history because we all agree on it. We don't all agree on the best religion or country or school, though we all know Babson is the best school. But we all agree on money. We all agree that money has value, and that's what gives money its power. But today we have a huge problem with money. It's a problem so big that we don't even think about it. The problem is the US dollar. Now, it's not a problem for those of us who live in the US. In fact, it's very good. The dollar is what's called a reserve currency, which means everyone wants dollars. Everyone accepts dollars for things like global trade. That makes things cheaper for us and generally allows the US to grow richer and richer. The dollar is like a home field advantage for the US. But is it fair? To show you how we've grown so rich off the dollar, I'll use the game of Monopoly. As a kid, I used to love Monopoly. My friends and I would play these epic games that would last for weeks. And part of the reason our games lasted so long was we played with the free parking rule. Maybe you remember this. Instead of paying your taxes and fees to the bank, you put them in a pot in the middle of the board, and when someone landed on the free parking spot, they won the pot. The official rules say not to play with the free parking rule because it makes the game really long. It keeps sharing the wealth with more and more players. But as kids, we wanted this because it didn't feel fair to lose to the most powerful player. Remember that feeling of one person buying up more and more properties and upgrading them until the rents were unpayable? Do you remember the terror of rolling a 6 and landing on Boardwalk with a hotel? If you intuitively feel there's this widening gap between the rich and the poor, you're right, as Jason spoke about so well this morning. And if we want to think about how we might do something about that, maybe we want to stop encouraging kids to play Monopoly. Seriously. In his book, Capital, the economist Thomas Piketty has shown the widening gulf that has arisen between rich and poor since World War II. Here in the US, the top 10% own almost all of the wealth, while the bottom 50%, the bottom half, own almost nothing. And all this can be summed up in one equation. R is greater than G. This is why we have this yawning divide between the rich and the poor. In simple terms, when the rate of return on wealth, that's R, is greater than the rate of economic growth, that's G, the rich get richer and the monopoly board tilts in their favor, driving everyone else to bankruptcy. That's it. One equation. You could put it on a t-shirt. In fact, in other words, the rich will always use their wealth to make more wealth. That's R. But when these profits exceed the growth rate of the entire economy, that's G, the balance of wealth moves inexorably toward the rich. And this is exactly what happens in Monopoly. But we don't want society to work like Monopoly. We don't want the top 10% to own most of the world, while the bottom half owns nothing. Instead, we want some kind of wealth sharing, like the free parking rule in Monopoly. Kids understand this. Why don't adults? Fortunately, there's a solution. In 2008, an anonymous computer programmer published a paper online outlining a new type of digital money. Imagine electronic cash that could be shared over the internet as easily as we share information. At first, this paper didn't attract much attention, but a few people noticed, and they told two friends, and they told two friends, and they began to build this thing, which they called Bitcoin. Bit like computer bits, and coin like money. Bitcoin, digital money, electronic money. Now, the Bitcoin network runs on a global network of computers, so to encourage people to build this thing, they paid them with small amounts of Bitcoin. So the network grew rapidly, and so did the number of Bitcoin believers. The orange line, that's the number of Bitcoin users. The more people believed in Bitcoin, the more the price grew. And the more the price grew, the more people believed in Bitcoin. The gray line, that's the price of Bitcoin. In the beginning, a single Bitcoin was worth less than a penny. Today, a Bitcoin is worth tens of thousands of dollars. Their vision of a global digital money came true. So far, we've outlined two big problems: the rich getting richer at the expense of the poor, and the US getting richer at the expense of the world. And one possible solution. Is Bitcoin the answer to these problems? No. And I'll tell you why with my personal story. In 2013, my wife and I made a big purchase of Bitcoin. The price at that time was $125, and it was kind of scary because it was still so new. 4 years later, the price of a single Bitcoin had jumped up to $10,000. It's an 8,000% return. I said to my wife, "Holy cow, this is the greatest investment we've ever made. Let's go all in." Now, my wife and I are entrepreneurs thanks to my Babson MBA. We run a marketing business. And I said, from now on, let's only go after Bitcoin and digital currency clients. So we did this at the height of the first Bitcoin boom around 2017. And things went really great for 3 months. Then the price of Bitcoin plummeted, and over the next 2 years, it lost more than half its value. All the new clients that we had attracted either dried up or disappeared. And this business, which we had built up over a decade, was on its last legs. We had to lay off almost all our staff. We had 2 mortgages out on our house, which means we had debt on top of debt. And we were down to our very last paycheck. About this time, I met another entrepreneur, a young guy who was just also grinding it out, trying to build a Bitcoin business. And he looked into my eyes. Actually, he looked into my soul. And he said, "It's never over until you believe it's over." In other words, successful entrepreneurs will always find another way to add value. Through strength of will, we just shape the world into our vision. Entrepreneurs just make it happen. And my wife and I made it happen. We brought our business back from the brink. We each took on the work of 5 employees, and we rode through the darkness until the Bitcoin market turned around once more. Today, Bitcoin is booming, and so is our business, and I'm so glad we hung in there. Along the way, I've become kind of an expert in Bitcoin, and I don't think it's really a digital currency. This is confusing because we call it a cryptocurrency. But our experience shows you why it's not useful as money. The price went from $10,000 to $4,000 to much more today. The price is just too unpredictable. But Bitcoin showed us what's possible. And this is the solution to our problems of wealth inequality. A global digital currency overseen by a global bank. Think about it. We live in a global economy. We're all connected. We all use money. So why shouldn't we all use the same money? To be clear, we can still have a US dollar, but now we have a global digital currency besides. This currency can be overseen by the International Monetary Fund, which already coordinates the movement of money between nations. We already have the institutions, and now, thanks to Bitcoin and digital currencies, we have the technology. But it gets better, because digital currencies are programmable. They're software. This means we can program in anything we want, including a global wealth tax. We tax the wealthy at the same progressive tax rate, and it's programmed into the money. Think of this like a free parking rule applied to the entire world. And this is the fastest way to flip R is greater than G into G is greater than R, which would make an even better t-shirt. With a global digital currency, we'll be able to funnel more money into education, healthcare, and technology, vastly improving the quality of life on Earth. By funneling more wealth, R, into economic growth, G will be able to reduce global poverty, increase political stability, and shrink the gap between rich and poor. We need a free parking rule to share the wealth because we're all one. We're all connected. So let us move as one toward this glorious future. One money for one planet. Thank you.